In this video, we're going to take a quick look at the Nemo Bugout 12x12. As soon as I start filming, the dog's got to start barking. Harley, come here! And of course, the neighbor's got his quad out. Okay. What are you doing barking? You want to come in? Come here. Early. Come here. Come here, big boy. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come on. Come on, get inside. Early, come on. Early, get in here. Get in here. Yeah. Why are you barking? Lay down. Huh? What are you doing? Okay, so this is a Nemo equipment Bugout 12x12 shelter, or tarp system, if you will. They make a 9x9. They're both too heavy to go backpacking with, in my opinion. I've heard people say that they would use it hammock camping. I don't see it unless you're using the hammock in a car camping situation, then perhaps. Comes without poles. I've got it strung up a couple different ways. They do sell poles either from Nemo or you can get them other places, so-called tarp poles. But you can buy painter poles at Walmart for $5. I shaved off the threads so they fit through the grommets. Seem to be working just fine. Here's a close-up of the painter's pole with the threads all cut off. Just did this with a utility knife, no biggie. Just be careful when you're doing it. This is how it fits through the grommet. The tarp is difficult to set up without the use of trees, but it is versatile enough that you could. I've kind of showed you how I would do it when I go outside. When we go outside to take a look at it, it's not set up perfectly. It's set up for like real world use, and I've set up the corners all differently for show examples of how you would do it in different situations. The tarp worked fine. We just used it for 2 weeks in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Some days were pretty windy, some days were we had rain. Stayed dry, fit an 8-foot picnic table underneath. Wife cooked in it, we ate under it. 8-foot picnic table. Managed to fit nicely under here. Had another camp chair right here. Plenty of room. You could probably fit 4 camp chairs in here if you had to. Headroom's a little tight, obviously, down in this section. Or over there. And of course, when you're walking, you probably hear that's my head rubbing. This side's a little tight, but we have the picnic table pushed over this way a little. And that's really it. We'll get a better shot from the outside. It kept it mostly bug-free. The bugs weren't horrible to begin with, but it definitely slows their ability to get at you. They can eventually get at you because, first off, when you set this up, there's always going to be bugs on the ground, so you're going to have bugs inside naturally that were in the 144 square feet that this thing is covering. You're also going to have mosquitoes and whatnot follow you. It's just the quad. Shut up. You're going to have mosquitoes follow you in and out while you're like coming in and out of the netting. You're going to see in the setup in Michigan, I had a rope strung between 2 trees with a ratcheting tie down to make a very taut ridge line that I ran underneath the tarp, because the tarp it has 3 zippers, so you can make it so you just have a little hole at the top to run the ridge line through. That's the way, the best way to get a tight pitch on the 2 higher ends. It can be done other ways. I've tried it with both poles on either end, fully extend it, and you get a little sag in the middle. It's very hard, especially with these cheap $5 poles, to get it super taut. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. But it held up fine. Something happened, either something fell on it or something bit it. I don't know what happened, but there's a little hole in the mesh. Durability wise, I don't know, not sure exactly what happened, but obviously something put a hole in the netting. Don't know if it was a critter, a stick falling out of one of these pine trees, or what have you, but when I get home, actually in the kit I have repair tape, so not the end of the world. Obviously gear in the field is going to show signs of wear, but this was a little bummer since this is really only the 3rd time I've used it, and the first time I've used it RVing. Used it a couple times in the yard for parties, but yeah, pretty sure this happened here at some point. You know, there's always going to be wear and tear on stuff, so I don't hold that against Nemo. Now, they tout the versatility of this, and I think it would be more versatile if they had full length, like the long side's 8-foot mesh, right, and it tapers down to around 4 feet. And you'll see once we go outside that you get a little draping, you know, along the edges where if it's not quite high enough. And granted, you're never, or very rarely, you're going to have it set up perfectly where the bottom is just hanging perfect. Speaking of the bottom, rodents, chipmunks or whatever, can come scurrying in underneath, so, you know, you're not invincible when you're in here. Now, as far as the setup goes, Nemo gives you these MSR groundhog clone stakes. They only give you 6. Ideally, depending on how you pitch it, you need as many as 16 stakes, right? So 6 stakes, not enough, Nemo, right? And since these are cheap knockoffs, I don't see what the big deal is with including more. Also, not enough guy lines. I had to end up using paracord for some of it, which is, again, no big deal, but the 12x12 is $250 and the 9x9 is $199. You know, I happen to get mine at REI because I could use a coupon code and I get money back at the end of the year. So for this 12x12, I paid under $200. So yeah, shop around, you know, figure out coupon codes and deals like that, and you know, it becomes more reasonable. Speaking of the price, this thing is sewn up in Vietnam, and I don't have a problem with that, other than to say that for $250, you'd kind of hope that it would be made in America. And I get that there's all kinds of outdoor companies having stuff sewn overseas, especially in Vietnam. So, you know, obviously I don't care so much that I wouldn't buy this, but it, you know, it is something to consider. You can tie down, or you can stake down the mesh in the middle of each wall. The mesh can get rolled up and tied off at the top, so you can use it as a tarp. What else should I tell you? There's plenty of room to, like I said, to get an 8-foot picnic table in here and you know, cook and eat and relax. You get a couple camp chairs in here as well. No big deal, and you'll see that when we go to the Michigan footage. What else should I say? Hey, by the way, I mentioned the real MSR groundhog steaks. If you guys decide that these aren't enough and you want to buy more, these are $2.50 a piece, you know, which is fine, but they sell a 6-pack for $20. Now, obviously, if you're good at 3rd grade math, you can tell that 6 times $2.50 is actually $15, not $20. So no matter how many of these you buy, always buy them as the singles. Don't let MSR rip you off by making you buy that 6-pack thinking you're getting a deal. Right, big boy? I know. All right, I'm gonna have another sip of my soda. Okay, let's go outside and take a look. Right there's the little hole that happened in Michigan. Again, it wasn't near a fire or anything, so I'm not sure how that happened. Okay, so unzip it to get in and out. Coming out? Come on, big boy. Okay, so this is one corner. The pole is maxed out. You can see it's bent a little. Okay, I got the corner staked down. Now, you could just go with one guy line straight back, but really, if you've messed with tarps long enough, you know in this situation you really need the two guy lines coming out, you know, basically in line with the wall, so you have a little V set up like this. Like I said earlier, if Nemo had full length, the same length of no-seam there, and had it over here, yes, you would still have draping here on the bottom, but you'd have the versatility when it's not going to be raining and you just need shade and bug protection to get this to go 8 feet high, basically, so you have a lot more usable headroom inside. But this is staked out without any kind of pole there holding the corner. This is also staked out with any kind of pole, but I used the post here as a pretend tree, and of course a ratcheting tie down. Now, like I said, in Michigan you'll see that I ran a ridge line from tree to tree, took all the tension up with the ratcheting tie down. Basically just have a rope going from one tree to this tree, and then I tension it with a ratcheting tie down strap. And I just hang the excess cord up out of the way. Okay, now this is all zipped down at the bottom. Right here there's a zipper, and here's a zipper. So this is how they suggest you hang the hammock strap through if you want to use it as a hammock. Again, I would never take this backpacking. It's well over 7 pounds. The even the 9x9 is substantially heavy. You would never take it backpacking, in my opinion. Anyway, to run the ridgeline underneath like I did in Michigan, obviously you just create the hole like that, zip it up, and you're sealed off, and you can still get in and out by using the bottom zipper. Okay, there's that. Like I said, this is sewn in Vietnam. Right there. You guys can, obviously it says made in Vietnam. Now here's the shorter side, maxed out with the painter's pole. Nemo says that you could use a hiking pole, which I have hiking poles, but again, you would never use a hiking pole with this, probably because you would never be backpacking with it. Will you stop? Why can't you just lay there and be quiet? All right, I know, the neighbor on the quad. Go get him. All right, so what else can I tell you about it? There are some tie-down loops along the edge. This is your basic loop with a toggle. In this case, it happens to be an adjustable one to roll up the mesh. So you can just have it set up as a tarp. There's 2 of them on each side. And that's really it. Again, I think for the $250 that this cost, well worth it. I think if my wife was here and we were talking to my wife, she totally enjoyed it. In years past, while we were RVing, we've just used a regular tarp and relied on citronella candles or whatnot to protect us from the bugs, since we mainly vacation in places like the UP or the White Mountains or coastal Maine or wherever, where there happens to be a lot of mosquitoes during the summertime. And we still use citronella candles and whatnot inside here to help us with anything that followed us in while we were going in and out of the zippered area. Any questions, obviously, feel free to ask in the comments. I think I pretty much said all I need to say. So, yeah. My 2 big gripes for Nemo would be to add more netting the full length, like keep it 8 foot all the way along. So on the short end, you'd have some draping, if, you know, set up the way it is now. But if I wanted to, I could go the full 8 feet on all 4 corners, and you know, you'd have a lot more headroom in here, especially if you were using this in the manner that it's set up here in the yard. Like if you were having a family picnic and, you know, you wanted a place to keep people out of the bugs, or, you know, away from the bugs. I think the extra no-see-um would be better. Yes, it would weigh more, but no, like I said, nobody's really taking this thing into the woods. Maybe canoe camping, kayak camping, that sort of thing, if there weren't too many long portages. You know, at over 7 pounds, you're not going to want to carry a tarp anywhere that's that heavy. This is really nitpicking, but besides not having enough stakes included, the loops along the side, very small. The factory stakes, which are identical basically to these, more or less, barely fit through there on the middle of the mesh walls. And then this material right here is a little too thick to adequately and reliably catch the little nubbins on the stake. So just 2 minor quibbles, but you know, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so in conclusion, I'm just going to say that for around the yard, this thing is pretty nice if you need it for that. For us, using it as an accessory to an RV, it's really fantastic in that regard because we don't care about weight. The only consideration there would be that some campgrounds don't allow you to tie stuff in their trees, which is why you have to experiment the way I did with makeshift DIY poles, other alternatives. You know, if you have a truck or a vehicle with a rack, you could probably tie it off to the rack, at least one corner, stuff like that. So, you know, again, the versatility comes into play there. There's a lot of options. And you'll notice in Michigan, I didn't use the painter's poles. My intent was to use the painter poles, yeah, even if I could go to a tree, because that helps keep the corners at the perfect height. But yeah, in the rush to get out of the house and get things going, somehow we forgot the painter's poles. So yeah. But again, the versatility helped out because I could still hang it and it worked out fine. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time as always.